to those in the diaspora listening to this week's edition of Leadership Matters, which is hosted by the Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, Dr. the Honorable Timothy Harris. My name is Jacqueline Bryan, and I'm your host this evening. Tonight, we're speaking about agriculture and food security, and we have a very interesting panel, and they will be sharing information with you about the agricultural sector here in St. Kitts and Nevis. It has been quite an experience in that sector, especially since the pandemic last year. There have been a number of projects being undertaken, and the government has invested in that area to a large extent. And they will be bringing you updates this evening. So tonight, the Prime Minister is joined by Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Agriculture, Ron Dublin Collins.
Good evening.
He's also joined by Dr. Tracy Challenger, Chief Veterinary Officer in the Ministry of Agriculture. Also with us is Mr. Winston Morris, who is a crop farmer. He's been a crop farmer for over 40 years. He's joining us this evening.
Good evening, everyone.
As well as Sharon Jones from the Inter-American Institute for Cooperation on Agriculture. She's a technical specialist, and she's here with us tonight.
Good evening.
So we're going to begin the program with the opening remarks from the person who brings you this show every week, Prime Minister Dr. the Honorable Timothy Harris. Mr. Prime Minister.
Thank you very much, Jackie. My fellow citizens and residents, thank you for joining us this week for another edition of Leadership Matters. It is a pleasure to be able to report to and interact with you at home and in the diaspora. I appreciate the importance of my government frequently and continually communicating directly with the people. Such thinking has shaped the ethos of my Team Unity administration. We regularly convene the National Assembly to debate the laws to take our country forward. Indeed, we now have the most active and productive parliament in recent memory. My monthly press conference is the most comprehensive in the region, and it informs and updates on the progress and execution of those policies and programs, fielding questions from a probing press corps. These forums give every man and woman the opportunity and access to the highest executive offices in the land. This evening, we turn our focus to agriculture and food security. It is one of the most important considerations for my country at this time. It would seem that when mankind began planting crops, we began putting down roots literally and figuratively. Here in St. Kitts and Nevis, we have a rich and colorful history with regard to agriculture. The islands of St. Kitts and Nevis were known for the production of important export crops, such as cotton, tobacco, and sugar. Indeed, there was a time when every piece of arable land, from the hills of Mount Lyamega and Nevis Peak to the shores, was under cultivation, either as export crops or to feed the domestic population. We see the evidence of the extent in the many ruins of sugar plantations and mill houses that still dot our two islands. History books relate accounts of planters commenting on the rich soil in St. Kitts and Nevis that yields much larger sugar cane than other islands, thus producing more sugar from less land space. We ceased the production of sugar in St. Kitts on a commercial basis way back in 2005, providing greater opportunities for expansion in non-sugar agriculture. Agriculture has seen a budding revival over the last several years. The onset of the COVID-19 pandemic has reminded us of the very important need to be able to feed ourselves. We well remember the anxiety felt by some this time last year when the world was in lockdown and many were concerned if the boats and cargo vessels will bring food again. I recall that in my addresses to the nation at the time, having to reassure the populace that the country had adequate food supplies and avenues for restocking. Nevertheless, the experience did solidify the realization that we need to produce more of what we consume. We became cognizant of the fears of our people, and we responded. To protect us against supply chain being negatively affected, we need to systematically diversify source markets for food, including poultry, meat, and fish, while aggressively working to near self-sufficiency in these staples. This is why, as part of the stimulus package, my government allocated $10 million to boost agriculture and agricultural production. Building on the commitment made to expand our agricultural base, we, in our 2021 budget, allocated $5 million to continue the stimulus program for the agricultural sector. We are seeing increased production and interest in crops, in livestock, poultry, and fisheries. The concessions that my administration delivered to this sector are bearing fruit. Fisheries output, for example, recorded a 3.6% increase in 2020 after an 83% reduction in output in April 2020, a direct consequence of the COVID-19 pandemic and the associated curfews and lockdowns, which in fact brought fisheries to a standstill. Over the past almost 6 years, my administration has given much and will further increase its support to the sector. Indeed, the 2021 allocation of just over $10 million plus a further $5 million for the stimulus program represents the largest budgetary allocation to this sector in a very long time. The Permanent Secretary perhaps may discuss this briefly. I understand the vital importance of this sector to our country and economy. I understand also the challenges. I appreciate the vast potential of the agricultural sector to contribute to our sustainable growth and development. Of course, for this to be achieved, there must be a focused goal and a cohesive strategy. We can produce more and better quality products for us to consume domestically and, of course, for export. Better quality foods lead to improvement in our health condition, which in turn mean lower health costs. Our health is critical to the nation's wealth. Working together, we can create more jobs within the sector, wealth for our people, and a source of foreign exchange for our country. Over time, many of our citizens left our shores to work on farms in Canada. The last batch that left comprises 23 persons. Those 23 persons were recruited by Canada to work on cannabis farms. I am happy for their exposure, and I do hope upon their return they can help us build out a medicinal cannabis industry that earns foreign exchange by contributing to global public health, create new jobs, high incomes for our people, and a stronger and safer St. Kitts and Nevis. Since the start of the year, the Ministry of Agriculture has held discussions with the technical experts and seasoned practitioners, farmers, and fishers. Let us set the goals for ourselves and a vision where the sector will be in the next 5, 10, 20, even 30 years. Let us approach these goals with the same oneness of purpose and shared responsibility that brought us so much success in the fight against COVID-19. We can do this together, St. Kitts and Nevis. We will, once we join that shared responsibility and oneness of purpose with the ingrained resilience and innovation gifted to us by our forebears. Before concluding, I must again encourage all farmers and fishers to get vaccinated. Do it to minimize the risks of contracting COVID-19 or of transmitting COVID-19 to anyone. Do it for yourselves, do it for your families, and very importantly, do it to put our country on a sustained path to recovery. Do it to facilitate our herd immunity target being realized, which in turn will lead to more business opportunities at our hotels and at other business places. Let me commend all 11,804 persons who, as at today, Tuesday the 20th of April, have already received their first dose of vaccine. I am very proud of you and of your singular contribution to make our country safer and stronger in the future. I could not end my opening remarks without recognizing some of the ladies involved in agriculture. Denise Gillard of Newton Ground, Catherine Kate Pemberton of Old Road, Arabella Nisbet of Newton Ground, Debbie Gilbert of Phillips, Miss Vera Samuel, and Loretta Patrick of Tabernacle, among several other female farmers. I want to thank them all for their leadership and special touch in agriculture. Tonight I am pleased to have on the panel Mr. Ron Collins, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Agriculture et al., Dr. Tracy Challenger Clark, our Chief Veterinary Officer, Ms. Sharon Jones, representing AICA, and Mr. Winston Morris, a long-standing farmer. I know this edition of Leadership Matters will be quite informative, and I look forward to a better quality of life for our farmers and fishers, and a stronger and safer future for all of our citizens and residents of St. Kitts and Nevis. I pray that God will continue to bless the people of St. Kitts and Nevis and to bless this beautiful country. Thank you very much for tuning in.
And thank you very much, Mr. Prime Minister. We'll now hear from the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Agriculture, Mr. Ron Dublin Collins.
Good evening again, and it is my honor and privilege to be here to share with you the plans and the work program of the Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries, and Marine Resources. We are charged with a very serious responsibility of ensuring food security, food safety, and we have taken this very, very seriously, and our commitment is high, as are our hopes and our determinations. The COVID-19 crisis has, for us, stimulated a high degree of urgency and greatly fueled our focus to the need to enhance and to transform our food and agricultural system so as to achieve a greater degree of food self-reliance and reduce the food import bill, to transform the production systems to be more resilient in the face of climate change. Thus, we are faced with the pressing need to promote and improve the growth of the agricultural sector to contribute to a greater portion to the economic activity of our federation. Our vision speaks to the fact and to the view that our agricultural sector can be technologically driven, competitive, market-oriented, and can contribute meaningfully to national development. In light of our many realities, that we have embraced a new vision for the agricultural sector. And this vision sets out to enhance the agricultural sector so as to increase the production of food and to improve food security. Over the last 9 months, we have partnered with our stakeholders. We have strengthened our efforts to ensure that we stimulate greater economic growth in the agricultural sector through the development of a well-coordinated planning and the implementation framework that is interactive and effective and involve full participation of all stakeholders. The Honorable Prime Minister would have referred to two very large forums which were held earlier this year, which involve farmers and another fishers. And this was the setting ground for us to move forward with our work program for this year. For us, this is a time of enhancement, a dispensation of transformation, and an era of reform. We have embarked on policy response that will comprise of increasing local production while concurrently reducing the importation of crop and livestock products. The record reflects that we have a very heavy dependency on importation, and government has embarked on a transformation plan to reduce the amount of fruits and vegetables that are being imported. Our COVID-19 relief program provided by the government was a tremendous help in 2020, and it was very successful for the agriculture and fisheries sectors. This generous stimulus package of some 10 million has helped farmers and fishers to get back on their feet and to reboot this economy and the sectors. Government boosted support for the fisheries sector through the COVID-19 relief program and ensured the livelihood of many. And we even saw increase in the number of persons joining both the agricultural in terms of crop and livestock and the fisheries sector. The stimulus money received from government was also put to work in order to enhance the nation's ability to weather the ongoing impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. The rollout of the stimulus package was strategically implemented to provide well-needed support to our farmers and our fishers. The records are clear. We saw land preparation. We saw the provision of very important inputs, and we saw the results in terms of production. Availability of land has been one of the issues that we have been addressing in most recent time. Its management and its use. This is an area of great concern and challenge. And we know many persons who are in agriculture, in crop and livestock, some of whom would have liaised with the ministry to address those areas of concern. The ministry has been reviewing and is working to strengthen the conditions laid out in our agricultural rental land arrangements to ensure that agricultural land is being used for its intended purpose and the land is not inactive, or in terms of development, it is not there and not involved in the contribution to the agricultural sector. We are addressing the many irregularities with our land to correct the several anomalies that currently exist, and we want to encourage persons to be faithful to their land rental fees as far as possible. The stimulus package of 2020 was indeed a tremendous boost for us and is allowing us to pivot into this new era of transformation. The government of St. Kitts and Nevis has invested this year over 15 million, in fact $15,845,890 for the development of agriculture for 2021. The funding includes the recurrent and capital expenditure, with 3 of the 5 million that the Prime Minister spoke of as an agricultural development package. This will enable us to complete a number of very urgent and well-needed projects. Our plan includes the agricultural water management and solution programs, Barefoot's development, agricultural extension services and support program, and we are glad to report that in livestock and in crop, we have addressed the extension services, and we now have extension officers manning all areas, all districts throughout our island. Marketing strategies are being addressed, the abattoir development, public market development, training and development for farmers, both livestock and crop, and in fisheries, agricultural education initiative, and we have recently launched the Agricultural Peace Initiative. During the first quarter for 2021, we saw some increase and enhancements, and we are indeed encouraged by them. The marketing unit saw some 34% increase in the number of buyers. In that same quarter, sales to hotel because of the closure of hotels, have been seriously affected. But the number of farmers who have benefited from the storage facility increased by over 21%. Payments to farmers for the sale of produce fell dramatically again because of the closure of the hotel. And so the sooner we return to some level of normalcy, then the efforts that are being implemented now will surely pay off in a big way. We are working to better equip our pack house so that harvest produce can be more efficiently prepared for distribution to markets. We have seen the re-establishment of the Foy's Outreach Center, which we have recently resurrected and re-established. We see now 60% of the area now under land preparation and production. Crops have been planted, dashi in Edos. They're about 80% germination after a period of 2 months. Pineapple, we are sourcing some 10,000 slips of pineapples for the area. Sweet peppers and many other crops, yams, kush, tanya, ginger, they're all being targeted for that area. And Foy's will be a tremendous area for us in terms of production. And our intention is to remove the importation of roots and tubers by the work that is being done in that area. A lot of land has been reclaimed and disseminated to potential farmers. Our pest control program continues to be a very forceful and progressive program for us. We do have still the challenge with damage to crops, particularly by monkeys and pigs, and these animals have caused significant yield loss. But we have risen to the challenge. We have responded with training of farmers and trappers, the construction of trapping devices. Currently, we have traps under construction for both backyard farmers and regular farmers. We have invested heavily in several methods to curb the problem. The ministry has invested in 2 main areas of control and prevention. We have just received a supply of solar panel fence, and these will be distributed to our farmers. One of the areas which have been troubling for us, though, has been dog bites, attacked by dogs. And we have seen a dramatic increase in the first quarter. So the department will be addressing this problem to help farmers reduce this loss, which is currently being experienced. So far for the quarter, we have removed some 214 animals, which monkeys and pigs, from farms that have caused damage, and that is a work in progress. Crop production during the first quarter, cabbage production has increased by 1,050%. There has been a significant increase in tomato production by 59%. Cantaloupe production has increased by 400%. There are some crops that have fell in output, decline in pumpkin production, and that was mainly due to fungal infection. Carrot seeds were unavailable due to the supply restraints that have lingered from the impact of COVID, but this is currently being addressed. Sweet potato, watermelon, and yam saw a notable increase of 38.7%. And Dr. Challenger will speak to the livestock, but in terms of the production, beef production has increased by 70%, goat production increased by 112% in this quarter, mutton production increased by 16%, and pork increased by 70%. Overall, we see an increase of 67% over the same period in 2020. The night market has been a very important strategy for us. It has been well supported and continued to grow in attracting both vendors and buyers. We saw at the last one, there will be 3 more held this year. We saw at the last one over 60 participants, including farmers, fishers, agro-processors, hustlers, and so on. This is a free marketing event coordinated and sponsored by the Ministry of Agriculture. And the idea is not only to provide them with a forum for their sale, but again, to revive the use of the market, and meetings are being held this week, Thursday, with vendors who are currently on the street to cement this. We have seen in the marine resources and fisheries, fish landings for reef species in the first quarter. We have seen an increase, 54%, fish costs in coastal pelagic fishery. We have also seen an increase of 25% over the last quarter, which was in 2020. there has been some significant increases in fish caught, particularly in lobster and so on. There have been some areas where we have had challenges, and we are addressing those challenges in terms of the fisheries. But to move on quickly, we have invested over $500,000 in several 30 by 100 feet shade houses. They are currently on island, and we are preparing now to work with our farmers to strategically place those shade houses so that they can also boost production. Water solutions, we have been busy with addressing that very serious problem. Some dams have already been repaired. Dams located in St. Peter's, Keon, Parsons, Brotherson, they have been repaired, and some are currently in use, and others are awaiting rainfall. Our Farmers Assistance Program has seen the opportunity for us to further liaise with our farmers so that we can partner well in terms of ensuring production and addressing a number of the challenges that they have. This is a work in progress, and as we go on in the program, we will indeed update you on other areas. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Collins. We'll now hear from Dr. Tracy Challenger, Chief Veterinary Officer in the Ministry of Agriculture.
Good evening to our viewers and listeners. My name is Dr. Tracy Challenger. I work at the Department of Agriculture, where I wear two hats. I am the Chief Veterinary Officer, and I am also the Livestock Program Leader. The Livestock Division is divided into two. We have the Production Unit, and we have the Animal Health Unit. I will begin my remarks by saying that too often, when you hear someone speaking about agriculture, they tend to speak mainly from a crops aspect. And we, in particular, at the Livestock Division, need to participate in more public forums such as this one, so that we can sort of remedy that situation. So I'm thankful for the invitation from the Prime Minister to be a part of this panelist tonight, to highlight some of the major achievements, and also what is currently happening and where we want to go, especially with the lessons learned from COVID-19. I remember when I joined the Department of Agriculture, our cold storage capacity at the abattoir was limited to one reefer container, a used reefer container that was subjected to breakdowns at odd times. We now have two reefer containers that were brand new when they were purchased and are still working, and two walk-in freezers. So we have increased our cold storage capacity fourfolds at the abattoir. The layerage capacity was also increased, and we have modernized the equipment that we use at the slaughterhouse. We have also increased the number of butchers. With all of these changes, we were able to increase the slaughter capacity of the abattoir. We currently have 3 new projects on stream. As mentioned before by our PS, Bayford's, we dub it Bayford's Livestock Center of Excellence. This project aims to promote food security by increasing small ruminant beef and pig production through the implementation of modern and sustainable techniques, with the view to significantly reduce the gap between imported and locally produced meat. The gap is huge. On average, we produce about 20% of the meat consumption. Our aim is to achieve between 40 to 45% of our domestic consumption of meat. This, we feel, will bring an acceptable economic balance for our farmers. In regard to the small ruminant production, the Department of Agriculture partnered with Ross University to initiate a boar goat breeding program in April of 2018. We are now entering the 4th breeding cycle and now have second generation F2s on the ground. The F2 generation is the cross between the half-breed and the full-breed male. These animals are expressing the traits that we desire. So the program is now bearing fruits that we desire. They appear to be more resistant to gastrointestinal parasites. They are growing faster, and their muscle mass is denser. The aim is to achieve a carcass weight of 50 to 55 pounds by 8 months of age. The current average carcass weight of an 8-month-old goat is 25 pounds. This program thus far has produced over 100 half-breed goats, and 9 small ruminant farmers have made use of the opportunity to benefit from this program. Another major project is the construction of the National Veterinary Laboratory. This facility would provide the diagnostic tools required to support the animal health unit and livestock production. It will provide the diagnostic capacity to profile our livestock animals and select the genetic traits that will support the highest performance of the sector. From a regulatory standpoint, one of the major activities will be animal disease surveillance, which will include testing of imported meats and meat products for transboundary animal disease. These are serious diseases that would impact the livelihood of farmers in a negative way if they were introduced into the Federation. I am aware that COVID-19 has caused an increase in beef prices, and importers are seeking cheaper alternatives. However, we have to be cautious. So we are asking all importers and persons desiring of importing meat into the Federation, if you are not already aware of the conditions or the countries from which we import meat and meat products from, please seek information from the Department of Agriculture first at this number, 465-2110. In 2019, there was a lot of talk. We had a disease that it's endemic, but there was a flare-up in 2019, and there was a lot of talk on the radio about animals dying from this particular disease called dermatophilosis. We listened to the farmers. In September 2019, a survey was conducted over a period of 3 weeks to gather data on the number of livestock deaths resulting from dermatophilosis between the periods 2018-2019. The data suggested that 631 cattle, 291 sheep, 308 goats had died from the disease. That these are what were registered. And the numbers were climbing. It was on this premise that the amblyomma tick and dermatophilosis control program was launched by the Ministry of Agriculture on the 17th of February 2020. The goal of the TBT Dermatophilosis Control Program was to reduce the impact of the tropical bun tick and its associated skin disease, dermatophilosis, on ruminants, to the point where an increase in the ruminant population by 25% can be realized by January 2022. The objective of the program was to reduce the prevalence of the tropical bun tick infestation to less than 2%, to reduce the annual dermatophilosis cases to less than 300 annually. The report from the first quarter of 2021 indicates that all efforts and our hard work have produced the desired results of this program. Our records indicate that on average 287 liters of Betical were used per month at an average cost of $95,284 per month. Over the year, 1.4 million EC dollars have been spent on Betical, just Betical alone. The estimated prevalence of animals infected with dermatophilosis for the first quarter of 2021 was 0.8%, compared to 7% in the first quarter of 2020. This represents a reduction in the prevalence by 89%. The livestock population is now on the increase. In regards to water, water has always been a major problem for livestock production. And in addressing that problem, water was installed with the facilitation from the Department of Agriculture. Water was installed on most pig farms, and the farmers receive a special water rate. In addition, 4 water dams were constructed on 4 cattle farms, 2 of which are operational. So these are some of the highlights that have occurred in livestock production, and I want to thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much for those updates. Thank you so much, Dr. Challenger. We'll now hear from Mr. Morris, who is a crop farmer and has been a crop farmer for over 40 years. Mr. Morris?
Good evening to everyone, and I'd like to say a special good evening to my farming buddies, the farmers. We are a special breed of people, and our job is a mandate that we have is to produce available food, good quality food for the nation. And we have been doing that for over a number of years. And there are a number of young farmers who are trying to get into the business, and I would like to use this opportunity to appeal to Mr. Ron Collins and the Department of Agriculture to give them the chance. Sometimes we say you're too young, you don't have an experience, but how are they going to get experience if you don't give them the chance? So we speed up the action so that we can get the young farmers on the ground, and so that old folks like me can take a rest. I have been in the agriculture all my life, and I've been with the Ministry of Agriculture for over 21 years. And I was a crop extension officer, and I was a livestock officer for those 21 years. And we had done quite a lot of work in improving crops and livestock. And I spent some time at Bayfords, and some of the animals that you will see in the St. Peter's area, they are a result of Bayfords production. And I am an trained and well-practiced inseminator, and we were doing a lot of improvement in that area. So we will see some of the livestock, and some of them still looking good, and the base on that. I was also a teacher, and for 17 years, and teaching young people farming, the farming business, the production side, the business side. And I would like to take some credit that most of the young farmers between Keyon and Sadlers, they were my products. And I feel very good when I see them producing and doing really well. I always encourage them to do the right thing. And that is where leadership comes in. Some people are afraid to speak up and are afraid to give the young people a chance and give them a leg up. And I am not one of those. I like to see young people thrive. That is how the countries thrive. As a matter of fact, I am now in the process of helping out the farmer in Nevis who had lost quite a lot of his stuff there. So I am going to provide him with some planting, up to 80 suckers of planting, and I'm going to stand all the costs. I'm going to dig them myself, I'm going to transport them myself, and I'm going to give it to them so that they can do that kind of work. Those are some of the things that we need to do. And sometimes we talk a lot, and we're not doing a lot of things. Now, we talk a lot about food security, and I have been hearing about food security more than 60 years. Talking about food security, and where are we today in St. Kitts? Are we secured with food? Last year during the COVID, Dr. Harris was able to tell the people that we have food, do not worry. And that was his job. His job is to make sure that the people are okay. That's his job. He has to do his job. And so he get the supermarkets and tell them, well, bring food. And so that the people mind what is, and so on. But there are some pushback to that, because some farmers are producing, due to the stimulus, are producing a tremendous amount of food. And to get on the market has become slightly difficult in some commodities. I can give you some, like carrots, for instance. Farmers have lost up to 30,000 pounds of carrots. Some farmers have not harvested their carrots. There's a farmer just above me, and his carrots are still in the ground. Why? Because there are carrots on the market that have been imported. So they have to wait until those are finished before they can get in. And that's a very serious problem. And I have the problem myself as a farmer, but I'm an old farmer, so I have patience. I have more patience than them. So I can wait, and I know how to do a lot of things and so on. So the young farmers, they're hasty and they don't want to wait. They want the things not done now. So that are some of the things that we have. And then we're also faced with some challenges from the persons who purchase. And the supermarkets, for instance, they are going to tell you that they don't buy local. And I get pretty concerned, close to angry, when they tell me that they don't buy local. And the commodity is available. If you remember last year when the Director of Agriculture went on the air and he talked about the amount of squash that was on the market from a particular farmers. Even myself had some squash too. And I couldn't get my squash sold, mine was small, because they're telling me, we do not buy local squash. I said, you gotta be joking. And when you go on the floor, they have squash from about 4 other countries, different countries. Guatemala, Costa Rica, and they're not buying our squash. So these are some of the pushback that we get from those things here. Farmers have cabbage, they can't get them sold. Why? Because arrangements have not been made by the farmer themselves, or even assistance from the ministry, as to how you're going to get them sold. So the business part of agriculture in St. Kitts is quite lacking. And I have been trying to get a lot of the farmers to look at the business side of the farming. You can't just produce and think they're going to sell themselves. You have to organize yourself and get your market for your products. Whatever you have to do, you get it. Because my thing is, whatever I produce, I don't want it to go to waste. It has to be sold. It has to reach the table. If you look at the world now, in 2000, they had about 800 million men, women, and children who were going to sleep hungry. And the FAO, through the World Food Program, wanted to reduce that as much as possible during that millennium. And it went down quite a bit. And by 2017, 2019, it was down to 679 million. And that is still a tremendous number. And what are we doing in St. Kitts? What are we doing in our little corner to improve food security? Because remember, if the population is not hungry, if everybody is all right in terms of food availability, food affordability, and food sustainability, then the problems that the Prime Minister might be facing will be lessened tremendously because people are happy and the crimes and so on. And all of those things will go down if people are well fed. So farmers, let's step up some more. Let's do the work because that is our mandate. Our mandate is to provide food for the population of St. Kitts and Nevis. And if we don't lead out, if we don't step out, if we stand by and allow other people to do things for us, nothing will go on. So we need to step up as leaders in this farming industry. And there are a number of things that we're looking at. And I am quite concerned about the pig industry. Some time ago, we had a thriving pig industry. Most of you would know that any barbecue pit you go by, you get a lot of pork and so on there. And in the market, the pork was quite presentable from the abattoir, the government abattoir. And when I used to teach, I always carried my students, my fifth form students, to the abattoir to see what they were doing. And in a week, when they butchered 10 cattle, they would be butchering over 200, 300 pigs. Today, I don't think that is the numbers now, because some of the pig farmers are gone out of business because of some of the things on the market. Cheaper pork come on the market, and so farmers can't compete. And so Mr. Ron Collins is challenged with some of these issues, and they are not easy. But I think with him and the Prime Minister and other persons involved, it can be done. I don't think, even though we join a number of organizations and sometimes we follow them to the letter, I don't think we should allow those organizations to shut down any of our agricultural production systems. I don't think so. There has to be some way and means to go around some of those things that you sign on to as a small nation. Because sometimes when I go to meetings and so on, they use that as a reason for farmers not getting to the market. Because they're saying we join these organizations and we can't prevent people from bringing in your stuff. I want to think that I beg to differ, that we can do something about it and try and save our farmers. Because we're going to lose our farmers if they can't get the product sold. All right? I will stay here. Maybe later on we can discuss some other matters. Thank you very much for listening.
And thank you very much, Mr. Morris. We'll now hear from Ms. Sharon Jones, who is a technical specialist with the Inter-American Institute for Cooperation in Agriculture, also referred to as IECA. Ms. Jones?
Hi, good night, and thank you so much for the invitation, and good night to all viewers and listeners. First, I just want to start off with just a brief description of what IECA is, because I know some people in the agricultural sector will know, but other viewers may not. So the Inter-American Institute for Cooperation on Agriculture is a hemispherical agency which functions in 34 member states, from Canada in North America right down to Chile and within the Caribbean region. And we are focused primarily on agriculture, and our focus is to help our member states to be more encouraged to promote and to assist them to achieve agricultural development and rural well-being. Having said that, and knowing that we are 34 member states, that brings to the table quite a lot of expertise in terms of science-based and social-based experts in the field in agriculture. And what we do is we really offer that technical cooperation to our member states so that there are best practices learned in one country that you may want to tap into so that you're not reinventing the wheel all the time. So at this juncture in our work in St. Kitts and Nevis, we're looking at preparation for climate change. And even though I sit on the desk in St. Kitts and Nevis as a plant pathologist, I am able to tap into all the experts in climate change within IICA, the institute. So we bring that expertise to the country, and with that, we assist. Now, our headquarters is in Costa Rica, and the Institute is going to be celebrating its 80th anniversary next year. And in St. Kitts and Nevis, we have been here since 1992. So next year will be our 30th anniversary here. And during that time, we've done quite a lot of work with the agro-processors, with the beekeepers, a lot of the cooperatives, assisting with post-harvest training, support. This morning I was able to go and see a greenhouse doing hydroponics at the college, the CFBC, which ICA assisted in getting the money for them to erect the structure. And I was quite pleased because in not many countries, not even at UWI, do they have such a state-of-the-art greenhouse where they're actually functioning and growing lettuce. And this is going to be, so the students graduating from St. Kitts and Nevis would be exposed to this level of expertise. I was quite impressed with it, and not just because of the questioning mind of the technicians in charge and the teachers in charge, where they are actually trying to solve some of the problems that they experience with evapotranspiration and measuring that. So it's quite exciting what's happening in St. Kitts and Nevis, I must admit. So what have we been doing last year? Last year, as was mentioned, was quite a hectic year in terms of COVID. And with us in the Institute, it was no exception. We did support as much as we could in terms of technical assistance, but also we were helping with trying to build some food security for insecure families with looking at rabbit production for householders and with backyard farmers in Nevis. So this year, in terms of that intervention, we will be following up with the rabbit farmers and giving them some level of support as they progress through. And then some people may have seen the video that was done in rabbit production that was aired. So you may have seen that. That was one of our productions also. Last year, also 2020, St. Kitts and Nevis, there was a new emerging disease, black sigatoka disease, and we were strategically here so that we could have assisted in its diagnostics and also the training of extension officers towards better preparing and to intervene with the farmers. And one thing I must admit that I'm always impressed when I go out into the field is that because it works two ways. Because of your low humidity in the air, you find that you don't have many leaf diseases, and to me that's very exciting because a lot of things that grow wild in St. Kitts and Nevis, you really have to be working very hard in other countries. So you have an advantage in terms of your passion fruits, your banana and plantain, a lot of your leafy greens that you would normally have problems with. Because of your low humidity, it's really amazing, and also your soil quality, I must admit, it's always very impressive. So there was quite a lot of intervention in terms of working with the farmers in terms of Black Sigatoka disease last year, and we will continue to work with them. Also, we do assist because of the Institute is able to learn from experiences in the other, in South America. One of the emerging pests that we're looking out for is the leaf miner. And because it's a pest, it really was a pest in Africa, North America, in Africa and Europe. It is indigenous to South America, and there is thought that it will work its way up to within the Caribbean. So we are preparing the farmers here and the extension officers to be able to look at to watch out for these emerging pests. The other thing so this year, what we are focusing on for our work program, we are looking at strengthening the foundation for climate responsiveness in the agricultural sector in St. Kitts. We have one project that has been approved with the Green Climate Fund, and this would be working directly with the Department of Agriculture to be able to foresee right projects, know what is happening within the climate change responsiveness. And this would be coming on stream by mid this year. Also, we have been doing a lot of work with working with the Department of Agriculture, both in St. Kitts and Nevis and the Ministry, on another climate change project where we're looking at water security. Part of the Institute is really trying to look ahead and to see where we can strategically make intervention. What we have seen in St. Kitts and Nevis is that water, especially during the COVID period last year, was that being able to respond to the pandemic and the increase in production, what we did find is some farmers at the very beginning in March, April, had a very difficult time to get started because they did not have access to water. And also there was the rainy season, as you will remember, started quite late last year. So the July, August was very dry. And then the rains really came towards October, November, December, and then right into the beginning of this year. So the predictiveness of rainfall is not as it was. There is some variability throughout the years. And what this does to farmers is, as you know, is that they are not able to now foresee, and they now can't go into production as much as they would like to. So working with the Department of Agriculture and the Ministry to now look at a project that would give some more resilience to farmers, not only able to collect water, but able to utilize water more efficiently so you get more for the drop. And I think this is very important so that you are able to now plan which crops you will use at what period of time. So you may have a quantity of water. What crop do I do first? Do I do my tomatoes or my lettuce or my my peanuts, so that now you're able to crop plan depending on your access to water. And hopefully we should have something more positive on this project coming on later on this year. But just know that we are working on it. Also, we have an agricultural health and food safety policy and policy framework which is being developed. And then we're also developing a one-stop shop platform for best practices, so that agro-processors don't have to be going from one site to the other looking to see what are the best recipes, what are the best practices to put, how do you check food safety, what tests do I need to do for shelf life, and all these various things. What's a good floor plan for a processing facility? What type of material should I use for my floor, for my walls, for my, my tables? So this platform should be on stream by the mid-year to the third quarter. So it will be really a one-stop shop, so that any small processor would be able to access information quickly and not have to spend a lot of time looking around. Also, we are looking at post-harvest practices for a group of commodities, and this would be how best do I harvest and do post-harvest on these commodities. So we should be seeing more of that also. And then, of course, the technical support as whatever is required within the ministry, and also with our stakeholders. So we would want to work with the Beekeeping Association. The cooperatives are always very good for us to work with, because then we're able to capture a group of people at once. We will continue to work with the schools and look at the Rabbit Association, and also do promotion of the agro-processors. So having said that, this is pretty much in a nutshell what IECA will be looking at this year. It's going to be quite exciting, and we do hope to work with, look forward to working with all our producers, and also know that we are also at Port Zante, so that we do have groups do come in for assistance with looking for funding, because on our desk we always have funding for NGOs that they can tap into. So we've been sending it to fisheries cooperatives, to the beekeeping cooperatives, and we do assist in terms of doing project writing and exposure, knowing that, remember that because we do have offices in the Caribbean islands, we are able to assist in terms of information, market information, in terms of sourcing different materials. So please, we are open. We do have an open door policy as much as possible, and we do look forward to working with stakeholders. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ms. Jones. And now that we've come to the end of all the opening presentations, it's at the point in the program where we open the phone lines and we take your calls as well as your WhatsApp messages. We're going to take a quick break, but before we do that, allow me to share the numbers with you so when we come back, you're fully prepared to participate in the program. If you would like to participate, you can dial 466-2666, 662-8764, 8674, sorry. So let me repeat that. That's 662-8674. There's also 767-4765. And the international line is 1239-645-4500. And those numbers are listed at the bottom of the screen for your convenience. If you would like to send a voice note or a WhatsApp message, you can do so by sending your messages to 661-5683. That's 661-5683. Or your voice notes can go to 660-7168. That's 660-7168. And of course, the producers will be monitoring the social media platforms in case you pose a question raise a comment or suggestion there. So we're going to take a quick break. Don't touch that dial, and when we come back, we want to hear from you.
St. Kitts and Nevis, let's roll up to roll out. It's our best shot.
I will take the vaccine because defenses against COVID-19 is a team effort, and we are all a key part of that defense.
I definitely will be taking the vaccine when it's my turn.
I will be taking the vaccine as it is an important tool in the fight against the pandemic.
It is important for me to vaccinate to ensure that if I do become infected with the disease, it can prevent hospitalization. In addition, it also helps with herd immunity.
I will take the vaccine to protect myself, my loved ones, my clients, my co-workers, my community.
St. Kitts and Nevis, why do we need to vaccinate? Kenisha? So we can jab COVID-19 away.
Hey, what's up?
I'm good. Bless up.
Nice. How was the recording?
It was good, man. It was good. You know, always a pleasure trying to send a message to my people. All right, so we would like to welcome our Minister of Health, the Honorable Akilah Byron Nisbet, who's blessed us with her presence to speak a little bit on the COVID-19 related matters as we move forward to achieving 70% herd immunity. So we have a few questions for her, and we'll get into them right away. So, Ms. Nisbet, how's the roll-up to roll-out campaign going so far?
It's going really good. We have just over 5,000 persons who've already been vaccinated, and more persons lining up to vaccinate. And at this point, we're at that stage where we're actually going out into the communities and vaccinating persons where they are, which is also very helpful.
Right.
So it's going really good. And your song has been making an impact too.
Nice.
Welcome back to Leadership Matters, which is hosted by the Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, Dr. the Honorable Timothy Harris, and he uses the platform to keep you, residents and citizens of St. Kitts and Nevis, updated on matters of national interest. This evening, he's joined by the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Agriculture, Ron Dublin Collins, as well as Chief Veterinary Officer, and I've since learned Livestock Program Leader at the Ministry of Agriculture, Dr. Tracy Challenger, as well as Sharon Jones, who is a technical specialist here in the Federation. She works with the Inter-American Institute for Cooperation and Agriculture, and Mr. Winston Morris, who has been a crop farmer for over 40 years, and of course he brings a wealth of experience to the program. Leadership Matters is aired live on ZIZ Radio, Freedom FM, Sugar City FM, Vaughan Radio, and Win FM. It is also streamed live on the social media platforms of ZIZ and the St. Kitts and Nevis Information Service, also known as SKNIS. So you can look for the program on Facebook or YouTube if you would like to view it, and you have quite a number of options when it comes to listening to the program. If you would like to participate, because we're at the point where we want to hear from you, your questions, queries, concerns, and suggestions, and we usually have quite a robust conversation and discussion here on the program, you can dial 466-2666, 662-8674, 767-4765, and the international line is 1-239-645-4500. If you would like to send your messages via WhatsApp, you can send those to 661-5683, and you can send WhatsApp voice notes to 660-7168. My name is Jacqueline Bryan, and I'm your host this evening. We'll go straight to the phone lines to take our first call. Welcome to Leadership Matters. Good evening.
Hi, good night. Good night to everybody. Good night to the listeners them out there. Honorable Timothy Harris, P.S. Collins. Well, this granny. Yes. I waited patiently for this segment here because I know Beaufort right now is the Garden of Eden for the country. Right? But I just want to touch on the farmers them. So really doing the good works out there. Who handling the livestock, the vegetable, the fish them, everything. I go and vaccinate if you are passing on foods to the general public. Mr. Morris, you spoke about the farmers them, most of the farmers them stop having the livestock such as pigs and whatever the case may be. Yes, I agree with you. But I will add this to what you were saying. Most of the farmers them that did handle livestock, I think they was requiring more lands. I think the PA should look into that too. Like, if lands are available there to help the livestock, to elevate themselves more, as in like for pigs, because I look at this. Before now, and maybe the Prime Minister could answer this. Before now, we can get meat, chicken, more or less from to import from America. What we gonna come to, right? You also said, PF, that that the reduce import has been cut down. But then I ask myself this question: how much money we just spend to import things, right? Food in the country. Because remember me is a man the grill, So looking at last year with the pandemic, through the corona, when time to buy ribs, through the farmers them out there wasn't working. You hardly could have get chicken, you hardly could have get ribs, you couldn't get certain things. Remember, we just going through phase 1. You might have a phase 2. We're trying to run from it, trying to keep the country, And I'm going to commend the Prime Minister on that, keeping the country good intact. Because look at big countries like Canada that open their borders and shut back down again. Right? So what is there right now for us to move forward as the farmers? Because, being going to be the farmer for thing, are you looking at the fishing? Are you looking at the fishing industry for the longest while? I could tell you that. Me, if I have to go into fishing, my thing is that when I come in with my boat, I will also have a fish market to sell my fish. And in saying something towards the product of food, the farmers them need to get together. So if the farmers then get together and have, for instance, I think somebody said something about cabbages that we have to import stuff and so. We might not have to import them because you could afford to say that you can get 10 tons of cabbage to sustain the country from the government have to import. The farmers mind. I always tell people we're supposed to be saying, let other countries say, the sink its boat coming, because we got the soil. And I just want to touch on one more thing. I think I hear the Prime Minister maybe say, either the Prime Minister Collins said, that some students went off to Canada to study, right, about, I think was cannabis or something, so. You see, that is why I tell her that the Garden of Eden is up there for us. When they come, let me know what is going on, because yes, we have the soil, everybody know, within the Caribbean countries. How much countries have soil like us? I think Jamaica is one. Well, I think Jamaica is one. But otherwise, yes, we have the rich fertile soil, so, yeah. Let me get the ball rolling. Let me get, we done and we were. We done and we were. Right, so, but I see a cackle today, right? And I just want to say this. It's either, I don't believe it's the government. At times I want to believe it's the farmers themselves don't want to buy the product to look after the animals them. Because the amount of things I hear that the government pumping into agriculture. I see a cackle that but that they look like you got corona, you know? But yeah, I take care, I'm going to listen to the rest of the program. But yeah, I so good.
Thank you so much for your call. We'll take another caller. Welcome to Leadership Matters. You're live.
Good night, Leadership Matters. I want to say good night to the Honorable Prime Minister, and let me say welcome to the peer, Mr. Juan Collins. This is your first go at Leadership Matters, and the Prime Minister continues to select his panelists so the people can know what is going on in St. Kitts. And Mr. Collins, welcome to the Agriculture Department. I'm a farmer, so just like Granny, I've been waiting for this. I'm very passionate about the progress of farming in St. Kitts. Now, Mr. Collins, well, let me ask the question and then Ms. Brian will dive it in. The vaccine is out there, right? What mechanism is in place for the vaccine of farmers? How many farmers have actually had the vaccine already? I'm not sure if this is being recorded. I'm not sure what efforts are being made to make sure that farmers are vaccinated. Just like Granny said, you're going to be dealing with food and meat and provision. You're going to be interacting. There is a big noise about we interacting with tourism. So if we are going to do that, it simply means that the farmers have to get vaccinated. I already have my first dose. I'm waiting for the second. Moving on. Now, I've seen, and the PS, Mr. Collins, spoke about it, the market, right? How successful is the night market? And why did you gear to this night market? What efforts are being made for farmers who are applying their trade in Basse City to return to the public market? We have heard talks about getting the vendors off the street and to put them in the public market where you have space. Is there a time frame that you're set out to have this complete? Because what I don't want is where other previous governments, they talk, and not produce. And I don't want this government to go on that line to come and put things in place and we don't follow through or we don't take action. Now, I'm into pig farming mainly. I'm also into goat, cattle, and also grafted mangoes, right? But I'm going to deal with the pig farm. Now, during the COVID-19, the Prime Minister and his cabinet, we had a lovely stimulus package. And I'm surprised much persons didn't call in to thank the government for that stimulus package because food was reduced to $25. And I was able to buy 20 and 50 bags of feed. It now gone back up to 40. Is there any way that the food can reduce a bit from the 40 as to allow farmers the opportunity to buy more feed? Remember, a lot of us are not working. A lot of us are not full-time farmers. So we depend on our main salary to supply our farm because we are behind. One of the reasons why we are behind because we cannot meet the market because we are being competitive with importation. With that said, I think that we, the farmers, need a grace period throughout the year. And I would suggest the let's from between summer going down to December, because that is the peak time when most of the meat and pork production are being sold. Now, I'm saying the government should give us a chance to listen. You have 50 pig farmers. Could you give me a number or your extension officer who's doing a good job? Could you give me a count on how much animals Bucky have on his farm? Okay, Bucky, you have 200. Okay, for instance, Whooping have 200. Okay, somebody have 300. Now, I'm going to give you this grace period. You have to produce, right, to the supermarket, because we're not going to import that significant amount of pork inside the country. That is how the government is going to help farmers. The same, right, for cash crop, fruits and vegetables. We must get a grace period so we can raise our animals, we can fatten them and get them ready for the market. Because like the gentleman said, a lot of farmers have moved out. And you ask yourself, why is it farmers have moved away? There are many persons who want to go into pig. But when they start, they have problem now in looking after the animals. And I'm seeing the department doing a good job, because tonight they have a pig seminar or workshop. I'm sorry I am unable to attend to it. As a matter of fact, I was going to take off today because today is my birthday. But like the Prime Minister said, even on your birthday, when the people request you, you have to be there. And the people request me tonight to be here. So even at my birthday, I'm still working, right? So I don't want to take up too much of the time, but like I said, I'm very, very passionate about agriculture. So a lot of it going to go to the PS and the Prime Minister in terms of helping the farmers to reach further so we can continue. Reduce the feed. Get your extension officer to visit us. See what our problems are. Don't just give us money, and some of us have materials sitting down, not doing anything with it. Look at the serious farmers and help these farmers to move forward, because a lot of persons are very serious and passionate about farming, but they don't have the guidance. They don't have the right training. So I'm happy that you're taking the step in having seminars or workshops so you can educate people, especially who into farming and are struggling. If I get a call in, I have more questions. Good panelists, have a good night. This is Bucky Agai speaking for the people of St.
Thank you so much for your call. We'll go back to the phone lines. Welcome to Leadership Matters. You're live. We'll take another call. Welcome to Leadership Matters. You're live. Okay, if we don't have any calls at this time.
Hello?
Oh, hello.
Yes, I've been listening.
Okay.
Thanks for having me. Wonderful topic. I am glad that I managed to get through with my input. First of all, my question goes to Winsor Morris and the Prime Minister. And I am going to defend the farmers with an oral argument that is coming right now. And I would like the Prime Minister to answer this question. First of all, water is the most important thing to the farmers. And I'm speaking in respect to constituency 7, Molineux area. I know that Prime Minister cannot visit every site that have room for improvement. I know that you have other inspectors, so to speak, to do this job of reporting back to you what is missing, what need to improve, etc. and etc. No, there is a cry that water is an issue, like I said. Take into consideration the water source in Molineux. There are more water wasted from that source that was forever being. wasting than being collected. Now, if you personally were to see the amount of water that is wasting up there, it will be a total disaster. And this has been going on forever too. That wastewater could be taken into consideration where improvement too, going up to the source with a decent road, good security to protect that water system. That is going on for more water. More is more, because more water, you could never have too much. Now, I would like if you were to take a look keenly of that water system in Molineux going up and utilize that water that is wasting. The collectibles up there it needs plenty of improvement. Collect all that excess water that is losing, and it could be utilized for the farmers. Now, next one. The farmers, when they produce their products and hope that they can produce enough for the island, both St. Kitts and Nevis should that be. If they have excess, what is there? What plan has been put into place to help their production export to other countries? Look, I am in the United States, and I know St. Kitts land because we all grew up in farming. I'm a farmer by force, and now it's in my DNA. I'm living in a concrete jungle, so I can't do that. But the little piece of land that I may have, I try to produce for my own usage. But I don't see any imports from St. Kitts here. I'm seeing from Dominica, I'm seeing from Africa, Haiti, other surrounding islands. We have the best land in the Caribbean. And should the farmers get together and produce like a main base where when they have excess production, they can go into like a hub. And who is marketing for the farmers on the international stage to say, okay, apart from what's sold domestically, these can go internationally. I need someone to represent the farmers, whether it's fish, whether it is, well, I'm not going to talk too much about poultry, okay, but fish and all the products that can produce in St. Kitts to help the farmers make an income because they are self-resilient. I need the farmers to get help where their food can export to other countries because Jamaica does it, Haiti does it, Africa does it, okay? And we have good land too, and those farmers could be better off if they were to get that representation on the world stage. Who is marketing? Who is the proactive person to represent the farmers? Like I said again, apart from selling their food within St. Kitts, sell it on the world stage. It needs someone to represent that, and the agricultural department will improve more because how much people in St. Kitts gonna buy the products of local farmers? So there might be surplus, there might be spoil. Okay? So I will like that to happen for them. But, Mr. Prime Minister, I would like you to take a look into the water system in Molineux because it's been there forever. And the waste, take it into consideration, put a better security up there, and be useful to the excess water that's being wasted. Mr. Windsor, I know you from a long time, and I know you've been a farmer a very long time. And if I were to mention my name, you will know the family I come from. We all were very agricultural people. So take into consideration, move a step higher, help the farmers export their food overseas. Because I'm looking at breadfruit here, okay? And I'm not going to mention any other thing. But breadfruit is something that we all crave for here. And the kind of breadfruit that we will get coming from different countries, they're nowhere near our breadfruit and they cost so much. And most likely, everything come out of St. Kitts is all nutritious, natural, and it is and could be profitable should a proactive person market for the farmers of St. Kitts. Farmers in St. Kitts get together and develop a committee, an organization where your excess food could be taken into consideration, like cold storage, that the food can last longer and they will be ready for export and good quality. Thank you for having me. I will think about another question should I get you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your contribution to the program. We'll take another call. Welcome to Leadership Matters. Good evening.
Good evening.
Welcome.
Yes, good evening, Mr. PM. Good evening. The team accompanying him tonight. Quickie, Mr. PM, I noticed that a blogger wanted to put you at odds with the International Criminal Court of Justice. But anyhow, we know the truth behind that. You're totally innocent of which you've been falsely accused. Anyhow, I am not a farmer by any means, but I'm a consumer, I'm an eater. First off, some months ago, the Minister of Agriculture, Mr. Alexis Jeffers, introduced a program of converting Bayfords back into an animal and poultry farm. I would like Mr. Juan Collins to advise the public, myself included, as to where they are with those plans, how far along the plans have progressed. Next concern to Mr. Juan Collins would be, years ago when we produced sugar, there was a central marketing corporation which bought the produce for the farmers and redistributed it. I'm wondering if it's not time for a larger version of that, whereby they do this food distribution and overcome the problems supplying to the supermarkets, the hotels, and export, as the previous caller just spoke about. And that would also help to get the vendors off the sidewalk vendors off the street who are trying to sell fruit and vegetable. But the thing about it, the main thing is cut down on wastage and distribute properly. The farmers would get what is due to them, and it then becomes the problem of the Central Marketing Corporation to get rid of the produce at reasonable prices and cut down considerably on the imports. Have a good night to each and every one of you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your participation in the program. We'll take another call. Welcome. Oh, unfortunately, we lost that call. We'll take another call. Welcome to Leadership. Hi, good evening. Welcome to Leadership Matters.
Hi, good night. I have a quick question to ask the Chief Veterinary Officer, Dr. Stacey Challenger. I would like to know what is the status on the war goats, because she said that the offsprings of the goats, you understand that the cross breeds, that they are reluctant to the parasites and stuff like that, but obviously that from information spread around that the parents of the goats and stuff like that, or the mothers of the goats have died, you understand? And so I would like her to explain to the farmers that why we should think that the offsprings is resilient to the parasites that the goats has died from. And also I would like to know about the importation of the great white pigs and the other big breed of pigs that the Department of Water, you understand, in order to reduce the importation of pork and stuff like that. And also that I would like to know why the Director of Agriculture is not present in this panel, because I think that he will bring both sides of the Department of Agriculture, as in livestock and crops. And also that I would like to also know what the ministry plans to do about the the revocation or allocations or distribution of lands for new farmers and the revocation of farmers that have lands that they are not using or what listed dormant. You understand? So, thank you.
Have any additional calls? We have one more call. We'll take that call, and we definitely must break to get some responses. Welcome to Leadership Matters. You're live.
Hello.
Hi. Good evening.
Yes. Good evening. I'm a local farmer, animal farm. I would just like to make a few comments and ask a few questions. Number one, the basic program that the Department of Agriculture is continuing, I would like to say thanks for that and hope that they do continue. Secondly, the idea of not buying local produce. I would like to ask why is it supermarkets are not buying local produce? How can the Agriculture Department / Ministry help? Does the Marketing Department help with meat producers as they do with vegetable crop producers? The next comment is duty-free concession. Some months ago, late last year, the Prime Minister challenged Mr. Terence DeCosta to produce a duty-free list of tools and equipment and materials that farmers need. Mr. DeCosta had said he would have submitted that, and he is awaiting a response. Can the Prime Minister tell the nation what is the status of the duty-free concession? I think he should make it clear, especially for farmers who want to continue and even for the young ones who want to come in. I thank you and I wait for a response.
And I thank you, sir, for your contribution in this evening's program. We'll have to go through some of these questions. We have quite a number of questions, and the first one asked, I think it relates to the topic we are discussing. What happens to the Federation if we're not able to import meat from abroad? And they asked the question, how much do we spend to import food? And Mr. Collins, would you like to respond?
Okay, in terms of what will happen to the Federation, currently, of course, we have not reached that production level that can supply the demand for crop or livestock. We are able to supply the demand for eggs, and we're doing very well in terms of our poultry layers with eggs, but we have not reached that level. We would have seen in terms of stats that we would have, I think in terms of poultry, some 70-something million per year in terms of poultry, and 30-something million US in terms of crops. So we do have a very high import bill, and that is some of the reasons why you find that we have begun those strategies to address those.
We also have a question about, oh, maybe Ms. Jones can assist us. Ms. Jones, you did speak about the quality of soil in the Federation. Are you able to say where else in the Caribbean region would have soil similar to ours?
I worked in Guyana, Trinidad, the OASIS. I've never seen soil. Your soil is very friable. It's in terms that you don't have. You can get away with a no-till arrangement because of the looseness of the soil, so that you don't see that very often. What I do think that happens, though, is this use of fire is detrimental to your quality soil, because what you're actually doing is burning off the organic matter. so that the water holding capacity is reduced when you do that. So I think if farmers would till less, because what I've noticed in the Federation is tilling is almost like a weed control management strategy as opposed to a soil management strategy. So if they till less, maybe once a year, once every 2 years, even extended, what you do is you build up your organic matter, and that at that point you have it. There's more water held in the soil, so you don't have that really damaging effect that you get during the dry season. But no, this soil is amazing. Every time I look at it, I mean, I'm like a child in a candy shop. I just cannot come to terms with the quality of your soil. That and your low relative humidity in terms of crop production. I don't know if it translates in the animal production too, that you have less disease, but definitely it really is amazing. I mean, I take pictures of it. I just can't believe it. It's just amazing. I know. I mean, not continue like some child, but it really is great. No, I haven't seen it before. You have a very deep, friable soil. People would envy it. Yes.
You know, the next time I step outside, I think I'll be tempted to look at it a little closer.
Yes. You see those farmers just pull out their root crops. You can't do that everywhere. You plant and you have good quality penetration down for your root crops. You don't see that often. The soils in Trinidad are heavy, clayey. They crack during the dry season. It's terrible. You get stuck in the wet season. If they sow your soils, and I guess that's why sugarcane was so profitable, and that's why you see so many mills and you see the quality of the old-fashioned houses in St. Kitts and Nevis, because there was wealth. There was a lot of wealth in this country through agriculture.
We also have a question about vaccinating farmers. The person asks what mechanisms are in place to vaccinate farmers and how many have been vaccinated so far.
Okay, let me respond to that. In terms of the vaccination of farmers, we have started an awareness program with the Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries and Marine Resources. In fact, today concluded our awareness with staff. And so now we began with staff and we're moving out now to fishers and farmers. So that process has already begun, and it has been going well in terms of the, creating the sessions and the awareness.
Are you able to say how many farmers have been vaccinated? Is that something the ministry is keeping a tab of?
No, we do not have that data currently, because I said we have started with staff, right? We are now moving into the other stakeholders, particularly farmers and the fishers, to have that forum. But okay.
We know of one for sure.
That's good, right?
Mr. Morris.
Yes.
Fantastic.
We have made an individual decision before we have even launched our program.
We have a question about the night market. How successful has it been, and why was it started?
The night market has been really successful and encouraging in terms of what we have seen with the results. The attendance has been great. The vendors have participated, all different sectors. We have different stakeholders. We've had livestock, and we've had crops, we've had poultry. It has been a work in progress. The last one held last month, the numbers were tremendous. What we are proposing to do is to do it the last Wednesday in every month. So the next one is scheduled for June 30th, then September 29, May 29. It provides the opportunity for another market for the farmers. And many have left with glowing remarks about how successful it has been for them. But the idea also, in addition to that, is to revive the use of the market and bring persons back into the market. So Thursday of this week, we're actually meeting with vegetable and fruit vendors who are actually plying their trade on the streets to again introduce them to what we're offering at the market, and the safeguards involve what we propose to do in terms of getting them accommodated there So that process has been very encouraging, and we are seeing great successes with it. We expect it to grow.
I would like to congratulate the department for hosting that, because I had been a beneficiary of that process, because a lot of my products were asked for and sold for that occasion. So I feel glad. So continue to do it, and do it more regularly, I believe. Better for all farmers, because stuff does go off like that. So it's really has been good. Really has been good for us, because even though we don't go generally, but we provide the material for people to get stuff, and good quality too. Good quality.
I've been to Mr. Prime Minister.
No, I too would want to commend the Department of Agriculture for this effort. I'm very happy by what Vincent has said, that it has provided an additional avenue for farmers to earn a livelihood, and therefore add to their take-home pay, if you will, as a result of participation in agriculture. And in not just those involved in the production of produce, but those who go on to do some form of agro-processing, use the input, whether food, soy, etc., to bottle drink, create the hot sauce, etc., etc. It's a good cross-section of persons who in fact benefit. So I also am encouraged by the reports, and happy to hear one of our leading farmers speak well about it.
I know you spoke about the efforts being undertaken right now, Mr. Collins, with vendors on the sidewalks. Are you able to give a more concrete timeline as to when they will be relocated?
Well, the process of relocation starts now. It started immediately, that we have begun to individually move the persons and encourage them to move back into the market. It has been in drips and drizzles, but so we want it now in showers of blessings so that they can come in a big way. And that is the reason for us to galvanize that type of forum on Thursday, to speak directly to a larger group. There have been those who have participated in the night market, and then they would have returned to their area. But the reality is that it is not tenable. The street vending is just not tenable. And there are persons who are jumping ship even now and asking about getting a good spot. Persons have gone, look at the market, and asking about getting certain spots so that they can begin the process and get a jump start on others. But we believe that we will, before the end of the year, we will see a marked increase in what is happening at the public market.
We had a question about...
Just to add, Jackie, in that regard, some time ago, the Cabinet put together a committee to examine the situation with street vending and to make proposals for implementation. We're expecting that next Monday, Mr. Farrier, who heads that committee, will be making a presentation to the Cabinet, and therefore we'll be able to provide more update. It will be a good thing if farmers now move, well, vendors move from off the streets and go into the market, secure a beautiful spot to their pleasure and from which they can ply their trade. The situation really is untenable and will become even more so as we begin the process of the further intensification of the street lighting in Bastille. The congestion that we are having at some of the critical areas, that will not be tolerated.
We also have a question about I'm hoping I heard correct, the price of feed is what was discounted? Okay. Yeah. So the caller wanted to know if there's any way the price of feed can be reduced once again as it was last year. And it wasn't a question, but it was a comment made about having a grace period for farmers. I don't know if you'd like to, or the Prime Minister would like to comment on that.
Speak to that also. Now, the stimulus package of 10 million did a lot of miracles for farmers during 2020. And one of the areas where they benefited greatly was some drastic decrease in the price of some inputs. For example, the feed and the betical, because the betical is extremely expensive. It is extremely expensive, and the stimulus package afforded the opportunity for the department to provide that service free for farmers in most cases. And we have made provisions coming out of 2020 and into a new arrangement with an increase and a continuation of the stimulus package to ensure that we can still provide a service. Regrettably, it did not work out that way with the feed, but we are now reviewing all inputs in agriculture, the inputs that are being provided, because we have been going around to the various villages, the communities, the farming communities. You know, we would have met Mr. Morris in the Tabernacle area. We have been in the Far East. We're meeting in Keon shortly. And we've been speaking to the farmers about their own challenges, what their concerns are. And one of the areas that have been flagged highly has been the cost of the inputs. And so we're looking, if it is that we need to change where we are sourcing them from for reduce, or the reality is that we are going to, government has been cushioning the impact of real costs with agriculture. And those type of concessions have continued, that investment by government. And so we're looking at where they're being sourced to see if we can get is no less than the quality that we have right now, but at a cheaper rate, or where we ourselves can absorb and cushion some more of the costs so that it can make it easier for farmers. But the feed is one of the areas that have been identified for review. So shortly we'll be reporting again on how we can assist them to move forward.
Person had a question and a comment. They invited the Prime Minister to visit Molineux to take a look at the water system there and the way water is being, in their opinion, wasted rather than collected. And they also asked if farmers who have access, if there's something in place to help them export their produce.
In terms of the visit, I think Winston Morris will take me there. But more importantly, though, I will ask the water engineer to have a look at this and to advise on the situation. We certainly, at this time, when there are challenges with respect to water, that we manage and conserve water as best we can. That has been an important requirement for the country, and especially as we get into the summer months and so on and so on. We always have to manage these critical resources because we don't tend to appreciate them until they're gone. And so we have to avoid that. So I'll ask the water engineer to have a special look into that situation and to see what we can do. I would also want to go back to the issue of pricing, and certainly I want to thank the caller for raising this, to ask the PS that they send me a sense of where we're at with this, what it will cost if we were to sustain the price at the $25 vis-a-vis the $40, and we see what we can do. This year, the Ministry of Finance had been particularly generous and had set aside an additional $5 million to further prolong the stimulus which we gave in 2020. And so this component of it should be able to continue unless there are, of course, other competing needs. We also want at the Ministry of Finance to see some plan that's going to be transformative for the sector. Well, the water issue certainly is a critical one facing farmers. Our agriculture is largely rain-fed, and that therefore leads to high variability in production and output. And so we want to see more movements into technology, whether it will be shade houses or other forms. We started some years ago in the Molineux Phillips Mansion area, the development of catchments of water, where water had been held on the farm themselves. We extended it to the St. Peter's area. I am not sure where that is now, but perhaps somebody should do an assessment of how effective this particular investment was. Number of the beneficiaries included persons like Debbie Gilbert. I think Pantry, now deceased, was one of them, and there are several others who had participated in this effort to bring water on the farm, well, store it, and then to find other means of getting it to where it needed to be. So these initiatives we have to really keep under consistent advisement, and water is so critical to everything we do, really, that it is something that if we get a hang on, if we could get some of the better farmers properly supplied, then certainly we would anticipate more output and greater sustainability and resilience.
if has to go get permission to go into the source itself and go where the water comes from, you'll be amazed at what is happening. Sometimes you feel that a lot of water is flowing down, but it's not like that at all, because the water is just trickling here, trickling there, a little bit, and so on, go right up, and so on. So it's not like that, a lot of water just coming down, and it go to the waste. Maybe the intake probably need a little expansion, and so on. But the water itself that they're talking about is really not there. The water is not there. Because sometimes when you get a dry spell, I mean, when the rain falls, people feel that you get water right away from the source. It don't happen like that. It takes about 3 months for the water to go through, to come through, for you to get water. So the rain don't just fall and you get water coming from the source like that. Most of the water will probably go down in the gut and so on as wastage and so on. So maybe that's what they're talking about, to catch some of those. But so they want some expansion there and so on. But in Molyneux Phillips' area, what has happened is that they had dug a well in Mansion, and they had pumped the water from Mansion up to a reservoir in Phillips, and then gravity feed. So you got a double thing, some from the source and some from the well. So they mix them and they send it back down gravity feed. So it's quite expensive to do, really expensive, because it's generators running all the time, you know, all the time. And current goes with some serious problems. You understand? So it's not as simple as people think it is. It's not as simple as that, because Mother Nature is there, and you have to look at Mother Nature and so on. It works very slowly. You can hasten Mother Nature to give you water. It gives you the water when it is available. So if you get a chance to go, get permission from the ministry and go in there, and you'll better understand as to what is happening. I usually take my students there when I'm doing water and so on. So we get permission to go, and they will see, and you know. It's amazing, really amazing.
Mr. Collins, could you speak to the excess, and if something is in place to help farmers export that?
Okay, there is no national or ministry level in terms of any regional markets. That usually happens by private arrangement with farmers. We do have a marketing unit, and we began earlier this year through the efforts of the minister to look at markets within the region, and there have been some discussion and very hopeful discussions about the need that is out there and the willingness of persons to partner with our marketing unit to make that possible. So those are things that currently we are looking at. It has not started, but we know that the connection has already been made between the department and some of our regional areas, islands, for marketing. There is, though, a need for a marketing strategy. The reality is we have heard, and again through our discussion with the farmers, those realities. But several things are contributing to it. One, our extension officers are being empowered to provide greater support to the farmers in terms of advice and so on. The persons who come into the department, to the ministry, want to get into farming, they are advised, there's an orientation now for them, so that it lessens the chances for their failure. Rather than persons just come, they need somewhere, they want some land, and they haven't had any experience. So we are providing the support, so as they go into the field, that it will lessen the opportunities for them to become discouraged or to fail. Now, part of that is the whole counseling and advice given by the extension officers to what crops they should really look at. They are provided with advice from the Taiwan Technical Mission in terms of areas which are best suited for certain crops and so on. And when there's a glut in the market, they advise. So whether it is crop or livestock, persons are told, well, listen, this is what our realities are with egg production. You may need to look at something else. Now, if individuals go into that on their own, they meet a lot of challenges. But if there are realities where these are the needs, you let them know what the needs are, we share data with them, and encourage them according to the area where they are, what is best for them to produce. So this, coupled with a number of factors, can create problems in terms of marketing. if they have not taken the advice. But in addition to that, there are farmers who are producing quite a bit. And the idea also of the consistency, because once you go into the private sector now, which we're having those discussions, it is something that has happened in the past where there have been discussions, but then you'll hear reports that when it's time to provide this amount, there's a fall off. And so that business now turn again to the importing. So we're trying to get over those hurdles where we properly assess what we need, what levels of production, and so that we can have a better arrangement rather than the business become disappointed, because people are going to need the stuff anyway, and they will turn one way or the other. But the marketing unit has been extending to farmers to bring in their stuff, and we try as much as possible. We have recently started to improve the payment arrangement to shorten the time in which they are waiting. And so I know that was an area of concern, and we have worked internally to get those matters addressed.
Sure.
Yeah, in terms of local produce not being bought by supermarkets and so on, the onus is on the farmer to see if they can get their produce sold. Sometimes they wait on the Department of Agriculture to get them sold, and all what happens is go into the store, and at the end of a certain period you get some tremendous losses, and I don't like losses. Period. What I produce, all must be sold. So I haven't used the marketing unit at agriculture for a long time, because my system is completely different. When I produce a crop, that crop is sold. Before it is ready, it is sold, because I tell the people who I'm going to sell to, I have so-and-so, they'll be ready so-and-so, how much you're going to get for the thing and so on. It's a tremendous amount of work legwork that you have to do. I send videos, I do WhatsApp videos, I talk and I send them to them. I say, this is what I'm producing, I'm doing so and so, and you're going to get. That is how I get my planting production up and running. I send them a video because they don't believe that I can produce planting. So I send them a video. I said, this is my planting part, and so on, so on, so on, so on. I say, wow. And then I invite them to come and visit. So I had visit from people who are going to buy, and they come and they saw the crop, blah, blah, blah. So when the crops are ready, and they say, oh, these are what I saw. Oh, these are what I saw. These are what I saw. These are what I saw. And they buy them. They buy them a lot. So I've been trying to encourage farmers to do a lot of these things. They can't just sit back and expect people to do the work for them. They have to do the work. They have to do the work. Otherwise, you're not going to get it done. So they say, I'm lucky. Because no, it has nothing at all to do with luck. It has to do with preparation. It has to do with your thing to do it, because the supermarket want to know that they can get from you in a sustainable way. If they can't get that, if they can't depend on you, if somebody can't depend on you, they're going to put you down by the wayside. Not you? They'll put you down. So if they say, Maurice, I want so and so, and I say, yes, how much you want? They get them. You know? So if I tell them I'm going to get them so and so, and you'll get it today, and by next week, they ain't get them yet. But they're not going to deal with me again. They're not going to deal with me again. So that is what is that trying to get a lot of the farmers and so on. But some of them are resistant and so on, but hitting them in the pocket. Hitting them in the pocket.
Well, Mr. Morris, you sound very technologically savvy as a marketer, and clearly it's working. We also have I was going to say that could lead us into the question about the Central Marketing Corporation, also known as CIMACO, and the person is asking if it's time for us to have a larger version of that.
It's time for us to have that discussion, most certainly, because what we do right now, we're still not meeting the full marketing needs of the farmers. We are doing some training. You'll realize a caller made mention of the livestock training that has been going on all month in the month of April, Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, and it is actually happening tonight as well. That happens right up to the end of April, and a number of areas are being shared with them, marketing as well. I have been to a few of them, and I've seen the excitement and the large turnout of the farmers, which is very encouraging. That is happening right now with livestock, and then we move to crop farmers as well. But in terms of this market, that discussion has begun as to what form. And at the ministry level, we are looking to see what is the best marketing strategy and getting the necessary advice as to how we can better address the marketing needs of the farmers. I'm not sure if the returning to the CIMACO version of it is the way to go. I don't have all the information about what went wrong or right with that, so I don't want to speak to that. But I know that we have started those discussions to see how we can come up with a better marketing strategy that will serve the needs of our farmers.
I work at CIMACO as a member of the ministry for a number of years. And I've also visited other corporations, like I visited one in Barbados, and they had similar problems. And what is happening, they were supposed to offer you some guaranteed prices. You produce, they take at a guaranteed price. I give you $2, you just produce. I give you $2. I leave with the rest. So what will happen is that the CIMACO now would have had a large quantity of produce that they can sell. So in short time, they're going to run out of business because all the produce will lose, and the government will have to pay money for that to continue. And all the central marketing corporations in the Caribbean that were established at that time, all of them failed because of that. All of them, every single one. And I've been part of it, inside out, and it has been difficult. Has been difficult. So if the system that you're using, you can offer a guaranteed price, you're not in anything. You have to tell me, you produce so and so, I'm going to give you $2 per pound, guaranteed. You have to give me that, otherwise I can't be a part of that.
We have a question about the plans for Bayford's. The person wanted a status on that.
Yes, Bayford's Livestock Center of Excellence is coming on very well in terms of the first phase, which really has to do with the restoration of the paddocks and so on, clearing of those areas. That has been a work in progress. Been a lot of work because Bayford's was beyond overgrown. Everything had disappeared. Everything had disappeared in terms of, but there has been a lot of work that has gone on in the first quarter and the latter part of last year to restore some areas. And we are now able to map areas where the breeding program will begin. Some of the buildings we have started, some are coming close to completion. There's a construction going on there for monkey slaughtering center, or Tremonton, that is currently being constructed there as well. But we have seen the restoration of several areas, and we are soon to see, I think it's June, we should begin to see some of the breeding programs starting, and then later in the year.
We have a few questions back to back for Dr. Challenger regarding the cross-breeding of goats. That's what you spoke about. Just want to make sure I got that right. And they wanted to know about the resilience of the offspring of the goats that were coming out of the crossbreed to the parasite.
Okay. Well, one of the main reasons why we initiated the program is because the carcass weight of the local goats, because of the inbreeding, we were not getting the desired carcass weight. It was very small, 25, I mentioned 25 pounds. And that really resulted because of inbreeding over the years. We hadn't really introduced any new genetic stock for that particular species. So we sought, and again, with assistance from West University, in identification of a source where we can get some good quality goats from the United States. And so we brought in these goats to breed with our local goats. But these goats were selected, the Boer goats, because they are good meat goats. They give you a good weight. Now, if you have animals that were not born in a particular area, and most likely they would not have the adaptive qualities for that particular area, so you expect that the goats coming in from a new environment will now have to acclimatize, and during that process, you're bound to lose a few, okay? But we were able to crossbreed the goats with our local goats, and so what they say, we got the best of both worlds when they come together, and we're now seeing now that in our F2 generation, which is really a 3/4 of boar goat, we're now seeing the desired traits that we were looking for in terms of the muscle mass and the combination of the local adaptiveness of our local goats, which is some resistance to the local parasites, and so they are doing a lot better, the F2 generation. So the parent goat, you know, what I'm seeing now, they have come out of that acclimatization stage, and so they are now doing a lot better, and the weight for the males, they are like 180 pounds. They are massive for goats, 180 pounds, and they are doing so much better.
Well, from goats to pigs, we had a question about the great white pigs.
Sorry, if I may, just for clarity, I think Dr. Challenger should also explain in relation to Bayfords, because in the good old days, that was one of the things Bayfords did. The crossbreeding, the improvement of genetics. Will that be part of the feature of Bayford as planned now? Because that goes to directly improving farm production, the quality of produce, etc., in a way which makes sense in dollars and cents for the farmers.
Excellent. We will be doing artificial insemination at Bayfords. We will also incorporate training for the local farmers and training for students at the college. They can come, and even we even want to go regional with it, because it will provide an opportunity also for students that are studying regionally to come to St. Kitts and do a 2-week rotation, you know, as part of their practicals for the course. So it's really a center of excellence, teaching, training, production, showing the best practices for production for the different species, because it's different. So we will show the best practices. So we will actually be able to show it to the farmers, not just talking it. They will come to Bayfords and they will see it.
And an update on the project you have with Great White Pigs. Is that correct?
Well, we do not have a project with Great White Pigs, and we never had a project from the department point of view with Great White Pigs. What I know that there was an association, and that association, because again of the inbreeding of the domestic pigs, again the carcass weight, it was really awful, and so a group of them got together and decided that they wanted to bring in some large white pigs, and they did, and that program was so successful. It was so successful. I mean, it was distributed, even though at the time there were only 40. The group only had 40 persons. But by the end of 3 years, almost every pig farmer had genetics on those pigs. So it was disseminated pretty quickly, and now we are reaping the fruits of that program. We have seen increase in the pig carcass weight at a younger age.
Thank you so much for that. We also have a question. Well, we have a question asking why the Director of Agriculture is not a member of the panel. I don't know who could speak to that. And what does the Ministry of Agriculture plan to do about allocating land to new farmers and taking land back from persons who are not utilizing the land they have already been given?
Okay, let me start with the absence of the Director of Agriculture. It's just a different perspective in terms of what the show, the broadcast has taken today. The Director has been supportive in terms of providing information. We just concluded our quarterly review meeting. We have done that since last year, that we've introduced these meetings to ensure that we keep persons accountable for the areas. So, yeah, he can provide additional perspective to some of the areas discussed, but we would have had those discussions at our recent meeting. So we were just taking the angle from the ministry and in terms of the overall policies of the ministry now as we redirect agriculture and looking particularly at livestock. That's one. I think the other question had to do with land. Yes, land, I mentioned it in my opening statement. It is a challenge for us. St. Kitts is not growing any bigger, any larger. The land we have is the land we have. And so we have been looking seriously at how we manage the land. And I mentioned earlier, we've coined a term, lazy land, that all land for agriculture must be under production. Persons cannot hold the land ransom, hostage. They cannot hold the land hostage. And we have been encouraging farmers in production. As we've gone to the forest area, persons have returned to the area. There have been various reasons. We're not out there saying, listen, you're not using the land, let's take it away. Let us see what is happening that would have caused the farmer to stop their work on the land. Sometimes it had to do with the overwhelming challenge of pests like monkeys and pigs that cause individuals to abort their efforts and so on, or some other challenge that we have assisted with. Now, where we have a challenge where persons are just not using the land, they're not allowed to hold their land hostage, but rather we start the process of redistribution. Now, for persons who are just coming in, we have sought to try to, wherever land is available, sometimes it might not be in the most convenient place in terms of right into their own village or town, but wherever land is available. The process really is that the individual complete a form, they make a request via that form and advise as to what it is they're seeking to do. And then there's, the land unit will go out and try to identify an area that can be utilized. There are a lot of persons who would have taken up lands on their own, and it happens not to be agricultural land. It might be private lands, or it could be sustainable lands, and we have been working with them. Some have been asked to relocate because of health reasons, and that really, most of that is really livestock farmers. Or sometimes you have challenge, which we have now seen the rise of legal dispute between individuals whose lands are in close proximity, or maybe it is that you have some small ruminants close to crop production that well guarded by dogs, and then you have challenges with the dogs and the small ruminants. So it is a serious challenge for us, but we're working our way through it. What we have been doing with persons is trying to find the areas and help them to move into those areas legally.
Spoke about it a little earlier, but if you could just again briefly respond. The person asks, why is it supermarkets are not buying local produce and duty-free concessions? Mr. Prime Minister asked for an update on the status of the list of things that farmers would want duty-free concessions on.
Well, I want to thank the caller for that reminder. I believe that Mr. DeCosta did in fact submit the list. My recollection is that the list was passed to the controller of customs to make a determination what tariffs, etc., pertain to each of the items on the list. I will try to review that information, well, in fact, to ask him whether that exercise had been completed, and perhaps on our next panel, one could provide the information with respect to that. I should further add that a wide array of items for agriculture are in fact VAT-free. They're part of the list of items that are either zero rated or exempted from the payment of VAT. So that is one concession that we make. One of the challenges comes from deciding whether an item which a farmer uses is intended specific for agriculture. And so because you don't want the benefit to go too far and too wide where the country loses. So if the equipment is such that it has multiple use, it's difficult to avoid the leakage. And then those the financial secretary has always warned that will not be a good policy because it's open up to abuse. So that's one of the issues we have to look as we manage the list and to ensure that the support intended for farmers is restricted to farmers only. And it's not always easy, depending on the item, to say, well, this one is just for farmers. This one will just be used by the fisher. And so that is part of the trade-off we have to make. But we will certainly look at it, have further discussion with both the financial secretary, the permanent secretary in agriculture, to see how much more relief we can bring, with the understanding that we will see quarter by quarter that results are being achieved, because that is really what makes it worth it. There is production, and that the farmers themselves are comfortable with the fruits of their labor in terms of their sales. That would be what we would request of it. And we will also request, there was a program started some years back in the Ministry of Agriculture, where we have sought to, in a more reasonable way, scientific way, if you will, determine what is the cost of producing an item. That is still something that I would require that the Ministry of Agriculture pay particular attention to. At times, the consumer get the feeling that the farmer is just charging the price. Maybe the farmer goes to Rams or to some other supermarket, and he says, well, their tomato is X, and so I will sell at X. And there is not really a reconciliation with what it is it really costs you. Sometimes we have the other scenario where the farmer comes in with his or her produce, and then he or she may determine, well, listen, if you don't want to pay me my $3 per pound, you leave it. And I always wonder, why would the farmer want to take back this box of produce on the bus back to his or her home? Why not after a certain time, Mr. Morris? Whatever you have, rather than taking them back, sell them at what the market would carry. Discount your price after a certain time. But again, I do not know. And so it is something that has always been there, and one wonder whether there couldn't be better options, better buck for your money. You take them back home, they store, they spoil. What really happens? And so those kinds of new thoughts we have to discuss with the practicing farmers, show them what makes sense, and discuss with them their views and some of these things, because you put everything in the package. The government gives concession. What does the consumer get in return? And usually what the consumer wants is a good quality product at an affordable price. An affordable price. So we have to ensure that things are affordable. I tried to reflect back the other day what it was like growing up, when there was breadfruit and yams and potatoes, gag yams, Eden and Edos, and so in abundance. And really, how it is we manage. And I seem to want to believe, and Maurice who has been in it for over 40 years may have better memory, that in those days the typical provisions were very affordable. And when you look at it now, it doesn't appear so. So the family, and you put yourself in the household. I had always been part of a large family. My father had 33 kids. My mother had about 10 of us. So, you know, it's always a large, whichever home, it was a large group of people. But you put yourself in that context of the mother attempting to live. And she has a choice between buying maybe 2 pounds of rice, which could serve a lot of people, or buying provisions. You go to the market, and by the time you get your plastic bag full of potatoes and yams, you may well reach $100. And you say, boy, you know, the typical householder may be forced into the starch. The starch come as an important one in terms of rice. And the breadfruit and the sweet potato and all of this are better packaged. But can that serve when you do dollar for dollar?
What has changed is that in those times we were peasant farmers and we were producing food for the household.
Yes.
Any excess we'll sell to Bastille. So we were really producing food for Bastille. All right? And we supply our food to the household. So we will eat everything that we grow and so on. And then for the extra cash, you carry to Bastille. My old lady used to go to the market every Saturday. And we have to carry breadfruit. You name it, we took it. But we carry it to Bastille. When she coming back out now, she bringing back rice and flour and so on, you know. But we will be eating all of those things there, plus the legal rice and flour and so on. So we were pretty good. I mean, we couldn't starve. We couldn't starve because we always had food in the ground, always. And if you don't have no food in the ground, you go dig some guali, as we talk about, some yam, and you get some good yam and so on. So we couldn't starve and so on. But so the thing has changed now. The farmers are really doing it just for money, to make business. You know, you're producing it, you take it to the supermarket, you and so on and so on. Sometimes even the household don't even get some. People in the house do. Oh, I don't eat tomato. Oh, I don't eat this. So you're making sport. You know, and so on. And then you're talking about the price for the product. Up to just last week, I was talking to a farmer there because there's a lot of yam available. A lot of yam available, and so on. And one farmer said, well, I not change my price, you know. He not change his price. His price is $4 a pound. And he decided, I am not changing my price. You want my yam, you pay $4. But he has a tremendous amount of yam. You know what I mean? I am completely different to that. You understand? I will deal with the person and so on. And we say, let me see what is comfortable for you, what is comfortable for me. And I believe I will make a small change. So let's see, and if you could take up all, why not? You want all? Take all. Because I produce them for sale. You know, and if you can take all of my produce one time, hey, mommy just gone again, produce something else. You know, I'm good to go. So I don't hold on my stuff like that. I negotiate. Like, for instance, you talk about people not purchasing stuff and so on. The thing is, when, like I had some peppers, I got some peppers, even without consulting the market. I said, well, I'm going to do some peppers just for you. And the peppers didn't be like this stupid. You understand? Now, the wedding house, I called the guy. I said, well, I have peppers for sale. He said, well, we don't buy local peppers. I said, what? So I get angry. You understand? I said, don't tell me that. Don't tell me you don't buy local. Don't ever tell me you don't buy local. Yes. You understand me? I said, I am coming down now, and we are going to talk. All my peppers done. Well, I don't have enough peppers for sale. We talk, and he say, all right. I do peppers now. So that's what we have to do. We have to negotiate and come to an agreement. This is good for you, this is good for me. And I get off all my products. I am ready to go plant again. You understand? So if I had insisted and said, because he's selling for $3 a pound, and my price is $3. So he said, well, how am I going to make money? I said, well, that's a fact. How are you going to make money for real? You know? Let's see how we can work it out.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us, Mr. Morris. But we have to take a break now. And once we come back, we'll quickly get through the WhatsApp questions and suggestions, and we'll have closing remarks, and we'll wrap up the show. So don't touch that dial. Sit tight.
I will take the vaccine because building defenses against COVID-19 is a team effort, and we are all a key part of that defense.
I definitely will be taking the vaccine when it's my turn.
I will be taking the vaccine as it is an important tool in the fight against the pandemic.
It is important for me to vaccinate to ensure that if I do become infected with the disease, it can prevent hospitalization. In addition, it also helps with herd immunity.
I will take the vaccine to protect myself, my loved ones, my clients, my co-workers, my community.
St. Kitts and Nevis, why do we need to vaccinate? Kenisha? So we can jab COVID-19 away.
Hey, what's up?
I'm good. Bless up.
Nice. How was the recording?
It was good, man. It was good. You know, always a pleasure trying to send a message to my people. All right,
Love
so
it.
we would like to welcome our Minister of Health, the Honorable Akilah Byron Nisbet, who's blessed us with her presence to speak a little bit on the COVID-19 related matters as we move forward to achieving 70% herd immunity. So we have a few questions for her, and we'll get into them right away. So, Ms. Nisbet, how's the Roll Up to Roll Out campaign going so far?
It's going really good. We have just over 5,000 persons who've already been vaccinated, and more persons lining up to vaccinate. And at this point, we're at that stage where we're actually going out into the communities and vaccinating persons where they are, which is also very helpful.
Right.
So it's going really good. And your song has been making an impact too.
Nice. I don't wanna lose you. No, man. All right, so next question.
Via WhatsApp, clearly the topic of agriculture and food security is one that resonates with a lot of people, that a lot of people are interested in, and we have quite a number of persons involved in that sector, from backyard gardening to large-scale livestock farmers and crop farmers. So clearly we have quite a number of questions from the callers and the messages. We're going to run through as quickly as we can through the WhatsApp messages. You know, we always attempt to answer the questions that we get here. Tonight is no different. We're going to try our best. We have a question about what particular vegetables and foodstuffs are in deficit, Mr. Collins?
From my earlier opening remarks, the pumpkin, because of the challenges we've had with that, and peppers, mainly those two areas.
Could you please provide information for persons interested in farming? What's the process if someone wanted to become a farmer, and especially if they're an inexperienced farmer?
Such an individual should visit the Department of Agriculture. The relevant attendant extension officer will be assigned to provide guidance and so on. What we've begun to do now is to ensure that new entrants are provided with as much advice and support as much as possible to avoid failure. So that is something, not rather than just hand them a ID.
The government has been promoting backyard farming. What's the process to get assistance in starting a backyard garden?
Basically, it is the same as we have with the farmers. We are currently working with the Backyard Association. There is a new executive firm under the leadership of Mr. Sam Franks, who we've been having a lot of discussions with, to partner with them because we want to make backyard a much bigger thing. Mr. Morris spoke a lot just recently, just a while ago, of his experience as a child with what we now call backyard farming. I may have pigeon peas, somebody down the road had breadfruit, and they've been doing some wonders in that area in terms of backyard farming. We are seeking to make that a more inclusive thing for as many persons as possible, encourage them to return to that, do something in your yard, and the various simple things that you can do to promote that. But we provide assistance in terms of, again, technical advice and inputs that can get persons started in that area. We're looking at other areas we can liaise with and partner with the executive. So we've had meetings discussing with them recently.
process for acquiring land for farming? Is there a minimum or a maximum amount you can request?
It depends on the project that the individual wants to do. According to what you are proposing and what level of resources you have, then that will help to determine as to how much land you are allotted.
This is almost like a lightning round for the questions. Have any resources and land been put aside for holistic plant growth, for example, paracetamol plants and other medicinal plants? The person said they would also include marijuana among that group, and they wanted to know what is the status of those who are interested for marijuana, getting into marijuana farming.
Well, in terms of the marijuana, we have now put in place an authority to deals with that, which deals with that subject matter. The board is headed by Mr. Ernest Amri and include a number of other persons, the head of the Rastafarian Brethren Association in the Federation, so a gentleman out of Nevis, and several others. It's a very diversified board. They have been meeting. I believe they've met at least 4 times for the year, so things are moving forward. The board is being supported by Dr. Dale Crawford, who provide administrative and other support in this area. So last week, in fact, there was a conference held virtually in which information was being provided about different approaches to marijuana production and cultivation. So we are moving ahead, and I would suggest that anyone who has specific information with respect to that, they can come to government headquarters and ask for Dr. Dale Crawford. He is the point man in terms of the administrative arm. The Department of Agriculture has been asked and has identified a number of areas where lands can be made available for those who would want to pursue the cultivation of marijuana. The specific sites, of course, will be with Mr. Crawford and with the board, the marijuana board.
What are government investments in new agricultural technologies, for example, hydroponics, aquaponics, chemical greenhouses, and information? Is information being provided for those interested in that area?
Just recently, the end of March, we would have concluded a workshop at the Department of Marine Resources looking at hydroponics and aquaculture, and there is also a meeting of stakeholders in this quarter by the Department of Marine Resources to address this. This is the future in which our young people are looking, who are coming into agriculture, coming out of CFBC. We have an excellent partnership arrangement with CFBC to ensure that we can work together to empower our young people. Quite a number of students turned out to the workshop last month, at the end of last month. So that is something that is currently being addressed by there's a project also by the DMR that they're working on with aquaculture, and an individual identified to address those areas.
In addition to what you said about working with CFBC, are there any other ways in which agro-processing specifically, according to this question, is being promoted to young persons to get more involved in that area?
Currently, we are working on the completion of our plant, which has been, there's been some delay with that, but it is moving forward now, and that will serve as a serious resource area for training of young people and current agro-processors. So the equipment is there, the expertise is there, and we have begun discussions to look at how we will proceed once the plant is completed this year.
This person...
Just 1 second.
Sure.
Also, that in the work program for ICA for this year is to do a platform for agro-processors for agricultural health and food safety, because it's not only the recipe to make your product, but it's also the testing to make sure it's food safe, the testing to make sure that you have the shelf life, so when you put your shelf life, it's valid. So what ICA is doing is really going to make a platform of a one-stop shop best practices for agro-processors, and hopefully by the 3rd quarter this should be launched. So it would be published when it is launched, so you can always keep in touch on the ICA Facebook page.
When would the Fishers Advisory Committee be put in place?
This question was raised recently at our Fishers consultation, National Fishers consultation, which was well supported by our fishers. The director did respond to it and advised that before the end of the first half of this year, that he will have the necessary discussions with the ministry so that we can institute this Fishers Council Committee.
Beekeeping played an important part in agriculture. What is the government doing to help promote the sector?
Not enough yet in terms of from the ministry. We would need to continue. We have had brief discussions with the Beekeepers Association, very brief discussion in terms of providing support in terms of what they're doing. Those discussions need to be beefed up a lot, and so that we have not identified an individual yet within the department. And I think that is something we would need to begin to look seriously at. I know there have been some level of support in the past, but we would need to beef up our support now going forward.
This person is curious to know, what does the farm household income compare with the income of a regular 9-to-5 job?
I don't have that data right now. I don't have that data.
Depending on how good a farmer and a business person you are. If you're an aggressive farmer and business person, I think there's some very good models of farmers doing very well in Nevis, even in St. Kitts. If you are laissez-faire as in any other business, then you. But there are examples of farmers I've met in St. Kitts and Vincent. Pardon? Yes, I think so.
As a serious farmer,
if you're a serious
business-like, you make good. Okay.
Exactly, and you'll be looking like you, Mr. Morris, at whatever age, looking young and healthy and strong.
We have a question that asks, because agriculture is inherently unpredictable, it is important to take preventative measures to mitigate some of the damage farmers face when crops fail. What, in terms of crop insurance, does St. Kitts and Nevis have that helps to stabilize farmers' income by protecting them against losses, minimizing debt, and protecting crop yields?
Nothing at this time. There has been discussions, I think, even at regional level, as to how you deal with farmers' insurance. It is, I might understand, yes, that it has been a discussion for years. It's a very risky occupation, and the threats against it, climatic conditions, and so the threats continue, but the insurance companies doesn't seem to be something that they favor right now. So a lot of what happens, that individuals experience loss and government try to cushion as much as possible and help persons reboot their work back into the field and so on.
This person is saying that they're a livestock farmer and they can't get land to put their animals on. And they believe that food security is not being taken seriously enough, so they're asking if it's, well, they're saying you can't give land to only potential farmers, you should give land to all farmers. How feasible is that?
No, but as I said earlier, that's a limited resource, and we have to carefully plan how we distribute land. If persons are, though, bona fide farmers, livestock, there is a process that you, now that we have extension officers back in all districts, they will need to see the extension officer and advise as to what their challenge is. Because you do have situations where some persons just start without the department even knowing anything about them, knowing of their existence. And then they will find themselves in areas where they are seriously challenged, and then they run to the department. And the department try to fix that situation. But if you're having a serious challenge, see the department. And if you're having further challenges, you can fall into the ministry to see how we can help you overcome those challenges with land.
And finally, we have a question that asks, why can't the government force hotels to buy from local farmers? And why can't there be a local dish on every menu and local food served with every meal?
Okay, I would have said earlier about the market arrangement we had and our market reports that they had a wonderful relationship with the hotels outside of COVID, pre-COVID. And once that comes back on stream, we have every reason to believe that we are going to be back in that area, which has tremendously helped the farmers who have taken their produce to the marketing unit. I'm not aware of any legal area where the government can actually force, but there's an arrangement. They have been welcoming and embracing. They have engaged us in receiving local produce. We'll be surprised what level of support. Sometimes persons say that the local supermarkets are not supporting, and that's not necessarily true. It is not necessarily true. They do provide support. We're trying to teach our farmers and empower them in terms of marketing strategies, how they prepare their package and so on. There's always that debate, the way we would take our local produce as opposed to the important produce that comes into the supermarket and so on. Those are areas that we continue to address with our farmers. But we have had support from a number of our supermarkets and our hotels before COVID had been supporting very well.
Ongoing work done in that area, there's always room for improvement. I, however, want to commend Park Hyatt. Park Hyatt has been tremendously helpful to local producers of products, fishers in particular. They make it a big thing to have fresh fish, and I know a number of our local fisher folks, they bring produce regularly to the Park Hyatt, and I know that at the leadership level of the hotel, the ownership level, they have a passion for supporting locals. I think we need to get every hotel into that mood. And I like this suggestion. There's no reason why you can't have a local dish at least once per week as part of the menu. I think this is where we need to go. We must always find something local in every menu in every hotel in St. Kitts and Nevis.
I think also Ramsey is not worthy to make mention of what Ramsey is doing in terms of the fresh fish. And they've been doing a tremendous job in getting a market for our fishers who bring in their fresh fish. And they have been doing a good business with that. We're trying to extend that to other supermarkets and so on as well. And the work now that the marketing unit is doing is seeking to do just that as well, to take our local produce into the restaurants. And there are restaurants that purchase from both our fisheries and from the marketing unit. So, but again, there is always room for improvement, and we need to establish more marketing opportunities for our farmers. And once they continue to bring their produce to us, we will continue that work.
Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, we are totally out of time, but I want to thank you for trying your best to address all the callers and viewers listening, WhatsApp messages and the callers' questions and their concerns. So very briefly, I will ask that you wrap up in reverse order of the way we started. So Ms. Jones, Sharon Jones, Technical Specialist with the Inter-American Institute for Cooperation on Agriculture, you get to go first.
Okay. Well, thank you for that honor. So just to wrap up, Wayne, that ICA's strength has always been in agritourism, agricultural health and food safety, in the beekeeping component, post-harvest. We love working with groups, agricultural cooperatives, and also that we really do have an open door policy for producers, entrepreneurs, people who are looking for funding. Not that the Institute funds people, but we always have information of agencies who have money available that if we do at that time, we can always pass it on to you or to help you to develop your proposal. Also that remember that the preparedness for climate change, that ICA has a great strength in that, and we're really going to be working closely with St. Kitts and Nevis in its responsiveness of the agricultural sector to this. One of the bigger projects this year will be in a readiness project in proposal writing, and also in what sort of information do you need when you're preparing a climate change project. And another that we've really been working very intimately with the Ministry and Departments of Agriculture and with farmers, and hopefully we will get it prepared by next month to send towards the Green Climate Fund. We'll be looking at water security in the agricultural sector, both in the collection of water and the utilization of water so that we get the most of every drop, and building the capacity of the Department of Agriculture and farmers, not only to install but to repair, to look after, to measure your water, to crop plan, drought planning. So it's going to be, if once this project does come, it'll be quite an exciting project. And I think the department and the Ministry of Agriculture has just been really working. We've really worked in a collaborative effort towards this project, and I really hope that we, through the NDA for the Green Climate Fund in Sustainable Development, I really do hope that we get this going and we reap the fruits of the effort and the work that we've put into this project.
Thank you so much, Ms. Jones. Mr. Winston Morris, crop farmer.
I'd just like to say thank you to Dr. Harris for inviting me to be part of this panel. It was really good for me because I always wanted something to say in the open so that everybody can hear and so on, because I've been speaking through the hills and valleys and so on for years, and sometimes you don't reach the right ear. So I want to think that it reached the right ears now tonight, and that we are going to get some action. Farmers, we are going to get some action, I'm sure. Right, Mr. Collins and Dr. Harris? Yes. We are going to get some action. And I think things can only get better. And we, as farmers, we always respond to the Ministry of Agriculture to produce and produce and produce. And we are right here for you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Morris. Dr. Tracy Challenger, Chief Veterinary Officer in the Ministry of Agriculture.
Okay, I want to end on the subject of land. Land is a scarce resource, so it goes without saying that increasing our food security will present major challenge. But I think it can be done if we transform the agriculture sector and use scientific and mathematical models to improve the sector and meet our food security needs. And when I say scientific and mathematical models, I mean we know what our imports are. We know what we want to displace, or how much of that domestic consumption we want to produce. Then we need to work backwards. How much land do we need to do that? How many farmers we need to do that? Because the land mass is not going to increase. And if you have a show and you're selling tickets and the holding capacity is only 500, how are you going to hold 1,000 in the area? So we really need to change the way we approach the way we produce in order to meet our demands and what we want to achieve. And I think we can do it. And also, I would solicit the farmers to be on board with us. Some of them give us a little trouble, but we're asking them to be on board with us.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Challenger. Mr. Ron Dublin Collins, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Agriculture.
I want to close by commending our farmers, our fishers, our agro-processors for the tremendous work that they're doing to ensure that we can produce, even at the level that we are right now. For those who are partnering with the ministry and the department to improve production, we understand that the challenges are many. We have begun the process of addressing them. We will continue, we assure you that we will continue to work with you to address these challenges. We see the realities of what is happening on the farm as we visit farm to farm and realize the challenges with pests and every other area. The ministry assures you that we will continue to raise our standard in terms of our service to you and for you with our extension services, and as the Prime Minister has committed, the other inputs to which the government can cushion the cost to make it a little easier for you. The work that you do is tremendous, and there is no doubt about it. Officials who go out on the sea so often and risk their lives to ensure that we get fresh fish. From the reports that we receive from our own lab here in terms of testing our food is safe and is at a high quality. And we want to encourage people to support local. This can only work if our people, not just the supermarkets provide it, because the supermarkets can provide import and local and individual turn to local, turn to import. We want to encourage you to support local. Buy from our vendors, buy from our farmers, and support their business and their livelihood. So I want to commend all of you and to advise that we continue in this process of reform. We're looking at a new strategy plan, modern agricultural practices, using the technology. We've spoken about the shade houses, the repair of those that we have there before. We're passionate about working with young people and women in agriculture. We've spoken, the ministers introduced the ideas of the broiler processing and so on, that is to come on stream, the beer foods, and a lot is happening at the same time. But we want to encourage you to remain on track. Don't get discouraged. There would have been things in the past that would have discouraged you. We have apologized to farmers for where we have erred in the past and said, listen, we're ready to move forward and to clean the slate and let us work together. We believe together we can reform the agricultural sector and change the realities with our import bill and strengthen the financial position of our farmers, our fishers, and agro-processors. Continue to work with us, and God bless you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ron Dublin Collins. And finally, Prime Minister Dr. the Honorable Timothy Harris.
Thank you, Jackie. I would like to end by thanking you for so ably moderating tonight's program, and to thank all the viewers who have participated. We had some farmers. The program basically was about them as producers, as consumers, their livelihoods. And so I was delighted that some of the first persons to have engaged the program were in fact called farmers in crops, in livestock and so on. We want to thank you and return to thank Bucky Gottit, a farmer in livestock and tree crop, for also speaking on behalf of the others. I must commend the panelists. Each one of you did an excellent job. So to you, Dr. Tracy Challenger, my commendations. To you, Ms. Jones, it was lovely hearing you and to also feel your passion. Thank you for discovering the quality of our soil, and I hope that our people, having heard that, will also get a greater sense of appreciation for it. I want to commend P.S. Ron Connells for his leadership of the ministry and for the progress that has been made, and to hold him accountable for whatever shortcomings there are equally. I want to commend Winston Morris as a man whose heart is within agriculture. Mr. Morris is not just a farmer. Mr. Morris has headed the agricultural department at the Kearn High School. He spent many years there. He spent time at Bayford, so he comes to the panel very knowledgeable, perhaps one of the best placed and most able to do so from the variety of vantage points in which he had been engaged in management as a producer, as a consumer of agriculture. So I want to thank you for coming and adding an interesting approach and an interesting bit of information, practical information regarding the farming sector in St. Kitts and Nevis. So again, it has been a pleasure, and I will work hard to assist in terms of providing the necessary support of the government to the farmers and fishers, extending to them the ownership for accountability for the results which they must deliver for the country. I believe good days are coming, And I want to ask them to continue to hold faith. Working together with a supportive government, much can be achieved. So may God bless all of us and continue to favor our beautiful country. And you have not yet been vaccinated, I want to urge you, do it for yourself, do it for your family, do it for your country. Get St. Kitts moving further in the right direction to herd immunity. God bless us again.
Prime Minister, and God bless you all. It was a pleasure being here with you. Remember, next week, Tuesday, same time, same place, right here on ZIZ. Take care.